I remember it was at the beginning of high school when I decided that I truly wanted to start studying movies. I was inspired by YouTube channels such as Dead Meat, Corridor Digital, and Chris Stuckman into learning everything I could about movies. One of the first movies that I chose to watch was Good Will Hunting. I won't lie to you, this movie is one of those classic movies that film nerds love. But as an insufferable movie nerd myself, I have no shame admitting that this is one of my favorite movies ever made. I love the random montages of the main characters traveling with Elliott Smith playing in the background, the scenes of Will and his friends fucking around, and I love the therapy sessions between Will and Sean most of all. But rather than try and tackle the complexity of a relationship between a broken old man and a young man who is at the cusp of losing himself, I want to focus on one scene, which I think is super underrated in this movie. But first, a little summary as to what the movie has been about up to this point. Will Hunting is a young man who grew up in the foster system, constantly going between abusive households and getting in trouble with the law. Despite the life that he's lived so far, he's also a genius who seeks knowledge and excels in everything he does. Will lives a pretty simple life, based around working a minimum wage job, watching baseball, and going out for drinks with his friends. However, he gets himself arrested and is approached by a Harvard professor. He's given the opportunity to use his genius and study under this professor rather than going to prison, but he also has to see a therapist. This therapist, played by the late Robin Williams, challenges Will to confront both his past in the foster system and the man that he is today as a result of it. The scene that I want to talk about today takes place after Will let his trauma get the better of him, pushing away the woman he loves, quitting his work at Harvard, and turning down a position from the NSA. After letting himself spiral back to the emotionally shut off person he was before, he goes to Sean to vent about his frustrations with the NSA job he was offered. Sean challenges him once more and asks what he really wants out of life, then kicks him out when Will is unable to give him a straightforward answer. It's at this point in Will's life where this really powerful scene takes place, and Will has a conversation with his best friend Chuck over a beer. You can see the distance between these two friends through the way that this scene is structured, with Will looking away from Chuck. Chuck asks Will how things are going with his girlfriend, showing how Will has truly spiraled, as he never even told his best friend about the end of his relationship. Despite the many people who have challenged Will to confront who he is as a person and the trauma he's gone through, none of them could have gotten to him as much as his best friend. Chuck is able to speak to him in the most empathetic, brutally honest way possible. He calls Will out on his bullshit, telling him that he needs to use his genius for something bigger than working construction in Boston. He then drops the most subtly heartbreaking thing I've ever heard in a movie.
Why is it always this? I mean, I fucking owe it to myself to do this or that. What if I don't want to? No. Fuck you. You don't owe it to yourself. You owe it to me. Because tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and I'll be 50. And I'll still be doing this shit. And that's all right. That's fine. I mean, you're sitting on a winning lottery ticket. You're too much of a pussy to cash it in. And that's bullshit. Because I'd do fucking anything to have what you got. So would any of these fucking guys.
That moment always breaks my heart, as you can just hear the heartbreak in Chuck's voice as he tells his best friend that it's okay to move on to bigger and better things and forget about him. You can feel the brutal honesty that Chuck is showing to Will as he talks about his dream for Will.
Oh, I don't know that. Let me tell you what I do now. Every day I come by your house and I pick you up. And we go out, we have a few drinks and a few laughs, and it's great. You know what the best part of my day is? For about 10 seconds from when I pull up to the curb and when I get to your door. Because I think maybe I'll get up there and I'll knock on the door and you won't be there. No goodbye, no see you later, no nothing. You just left. I don't know much, but I know that.
There's something special about the connection between two friends. The ability to have a deeper level of honesty that family can't always have. Due to the way that Will and Chuck both experienced a poor upbringing in South Boston, Chuck is able to push Will into pursuing a greater future in a way that Will truly cares about. Not for himself, but for Chuck and the other guys who are going to be stuck in Boston for their whole lives. Despite the pain in Will's eyes as his best friend pushes him to be better, this moment is exactly what he needed to grow into the man he wants to be. It inspires him to finally be vulnerable to Sean and eventually leave Boston to pursue his relationship with Skylar. There's something so powerful about this scene that has always gotten to me. I don't know whether it's the fact that it is able to have such an impact despite just being two friends talking over some beers, or the way in which a construction worker was able to push Will to be better far more than any therapists or Harvard professors. Chuck views himself as a man who doesn't have any potential. He's accepted the fact that he doesn't have the opportunity that Will has, and that he's going to be stuck doing construction in Boston for the rest of his life. But by opening up about this and being brutally honest about his dreams for Will, he is able to push Will to grow into a better man. And that's something that I value as I venture into adulthood. I spent the last year or two learning a lot about myself and trying to figure out how I want to spend the rest of my life. Not just my career, but who I want to be as a person. I value the connection between Will and Chuck. The level of trust and honesty they share reminds me of the connections that I have with those in my life. I hope that as I try to find myself, I continue to have friends who are willing to bring me back to reality and support me as I move forward in life.